Hello! I was looking at my watch to make sure I was like totally right on time. Welcome to How-To Diorama. I'm really glad you could make it. Happy Friday. It has been a pretty sad week. We lost a lot of folks, a lot of folks that we grew up with. And take a minute to if those folks mean anything to you, yeah, there's some things to think about. But today what we're going to be looking at is some really fun stuff. I've got a lot of diorama stuff to go over. I did these tours where I kind of went through the shop, and people have been asking me about this for a long time. Say, when you do these big tours, you kind of just rip through it, and I do. I don't know it. I think it's because I'm so very familiar with the shop that I just don't think about, other people might be interested in something that I've seen 1,000 million times, whatever. And so I kind of go through it a little bit fast. This time I really tried to take my time and talk about these things and a little bit about them, a little bit of history, a little bit about, how I built these things or where these things came from. And I think that did pretty good. People were pretty happy with it. So we're going to continue that today because one of the fun things that I've been asked a lot of times is all the wing stuff. I mean, there's nothing here. I've got some slides. We shift over here to our other camera. We can see I've got a video queued up here that I'm going to go ahead and show you, and it's the video that went out last night. But I've also got a little PowerPoint deal here, and I'm having some issues with this. I don't know. This happened last time too, where I used to be able to take these little PowerPoints, and I would output a PDF, and then I could take that PDF and then show you, during the live stream. It's not working. It's not advancing. Now, probably because I'm on a beta version I'm on Tahoe, and it was goofy. I don't know. I'm on the beta thing. I used to do beta because of the software company that I worked for. So I figured, sure, I'll do the Apple beta. Yeah, I don't know about that, especially when I'm trying to do live stuff like this. So that beta is going to get out pretty soon, and I'm sure this stuff will be fixed when Tahoe finally launches. So I want to say hi to some folks too that have been waiting in here. So nice. Hello, thank you, Paul. It's really nice for you to be here. I'm sorry, I'm clicking on it and I won't want to show it, Thanks very much for coming in, Paul. I really appreciate it. Bob is here. Hello, Bob. I hope you're having a great Friday. Got a lot of stuff done this week, so that was a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the arrival of the diorama that I shipped to Bob. So that's going to be really fun. Steven's here. Hello, Steven. Good day, everyone. Model on. Thanks very much. That's really cool. And Daniel's here. Hello, Homefront Forge. Hello, Bill and chat. Thanks very much for coming on, folks. I really do appreciate that. So, like I said earlier, I've got some things to show here, and I'm going to flip over there again. So why don't we start here, because I have a couple of deals. I'm going to try to maximize this so that it comes through well. And so that's the video we're going to look at. But here's the other things that I put up earlier this week. So on the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And look, let's be perfectly honest here. These things were posted because I couldn't get a short up. I've been just running kind of myself ragged with editing. And, I do a short every day. And so, what I did last night, that's what the shorts are about. And it's kind of fun because then I can comment with people that watch all the time. And, sometimes they're really popular, and most of the time just me talking to friends, online. But I couldn't, because I hadn't been doing any building or anything like that on the bench. I'd been just doing editing. I didn't really have anything substantial to show. So just wild hair, I said, I'm going to go live. And by going live, I recorded the first one on the 16th. And so that was like 25 minutes. And what that was just kind of going through the office and showing, some of the things in the office. And that did okay. And folks were like, hey, really fun, blah, blah, blah. But nothing bananas. Then I did the model bench tour, and that was an hour, and so was the wood bench area, and I got a whole bunch of comments on that, and a bunch of nice folks, said just a bunch of great stuff. But one of those things that folks have been asking for an awfully long time is to talk about the things that I have like up on the shelves. And do I have a picture of that? I believe don't. So sorry about that. But it's on the back shelves of the shop. And we're going to see that today because what I'm going to do is we're going to be playing that video. It's about 14 minutes, but it's going to take a while because in that I thought, this would be kind of cool. I show the thing that's hanging from the ceiling or up on a shelf or whatever that folks have been asking about for a number of years now. And so I show it there. And then in 2020, when I was just getting ready to do the channel and I was just getting familiar with photography and stuff like that, I took a bunch of these things down. I took them down off the shelves. I took them down from the ceiling. I built a stand to hold and prop this stuff up so I could take really nice pictures of stuff. And some of this stuff is huge. I've got an ornithopter and I want to say it's a 6.5 foot wingspan, and it's hanging up and the other, yeah. So all this kind of stuff was really fun. So I took it down, I cleaned it all up. When I do my woodworking, I do wax is like the final finish. So I took everything, cleaned it up, and then waxed it. And it takes a little while. And so during this last week, when I was producing this video that we're going to see today and we're going to go through, I could only do that with a couple of things because it takes a long time to do that. And so what I did was I would show the article and then I would cut to these photographs that I took in 2020 of that article, and they're close-ups, and you can see the woodwork, and you can see it's nice and shiny and all that kind of stuff. But in the video, I just kind of went to this low music so that during the live stream today, I can talk to you about them, and we can look at it live, and you can ask questions. I don't know if it's going to work out and be fun or what, but that's my hope. I think it's going to be interesting. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So, Alan is here. Hello, Alan. It is so nice to see you. It's really great. And your son just went off to college. I'm not sure if it was college or prep school, but wow, that's really, really something. I mean, I remember he was just little tiny. So congratulations, Alan. That's wonderful. And thank you so much for coming in. That's really great. I used to work with Alan at the last company that I worked for eons ago now. And that was a lot. Wow. That was a lot of fun. And we worked together directly right into COVID. We started working together. And Alan continued, but I said, you know what? I want to kind of do this video thing. Here we are, 5 years later. Thanks very much for coming in, Alan. That's so cool. I really appreciate it. See now if I can get that going down. There we go. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and I'm going to go to my slides a little bit. And I want to talk about a couple of other things before we get on to the video that we're going to watch together. Now here, I wanted to make darn sure everybody, understands this. My Patreon is shutting down September 1st. I've already stopped payments on it. And so it's just open. So for all patron members, please download stuff. I've got, and I put these up here, and I don't know who's downloaded them. I don't think anybody's downloaded them. But they're nice wallpapers and they're high def of the images that I've taken of some of my favorite models and stuff. And so it's the World War I British bunker. And then there's some like stuff that I have on my own computer that I run on here. And as my stuff, it's like woods and stuff like that. So download that stuff. There's other downloads there, and they cost money, but they don't cost money for any member. I already put down or marked it so any member can just get that stuff. So please do that. I will try to make that stuff available on YouTube because that's what we're doing. We're shifting everything from the, I got to go back up one slide. Everything from Patreon is moving over to YouTube, and we're going to do it in the YouTube members area. It's the same price. There's no change. You also, get videos. It's a paywall, so I can have stuff there that's exclusive to members. And we have a new member this week, so it's been doing really well. We got Nancy B was recently, she came on board, so thank you very much, Nancy. And then Mad Genius Productions came on this last week, actually during the live stream last week, so it's really cool. 1 week. So thanks very much. And when I do this, I talk a lot about having folks on, and I talk about them, and I talk about their channels and stuff like that. And I've talked about other people and stuff, a number of times. But what I want to do is for my members, certainly, and friends and stuff, is I want to show a little bit more. So I'm creating profiles. I have another friend, Thomas. Thomas has sent me a nice write-up, and he's got a great website. Well, it's more of a channel on Facebook, but we're going to look at some of those issues. There's just issues with Facebook. I'm trying to go too fast today. I'm a little excited. We're going to look at some of his pictures of his really nice builds. We're going to look at Mad Genius Productions builds, and we're going to look at Christian, my friends, his builds. And that's American Genius. And so I think what I'd like to do is have them all three there in one, big show that talks about other people's channels. So think about this, folks. If you have a channel, if you have things that you want to show, get it to me quickly, please. And there's a number of ways to do it. You can do it through comments on any video that I've done, right? If you comment on it. If you comment on something where we've got a conversation, that's like a different area in YouTube to go to see those comments. So it's a little bit more difficult to get there. And I just don't do it as often. I'm just so busy running around. And how busy could a model maker be? But I'm busy for a model maker. We'll put it that way. And so I may not see it. So please just do a new comment. You can also reach out to me at bill@scalemodelcraft.com. That's perfectly fine. And what I want to do is I want to build next week's live stream showing other people's channels and other people's builds. If you don't have a channel, that's fine. We've shown Martin Holst's things on here before, and I would really like to show those. And so please try to get that to me. If you get it to me too late, unfortunately, I can't build it into the show. So I need it by like Wednesday of next week, please. And I'll try to do some reminders with next week's shorts as they go out. And because I'd love to have everybody that I can on there. And we get a pretty good reach at this point. So trying to promote your things as someone that I really, really like your stuff, I hope that comes across properly. I think it's the least I can do because I've learned the things that I know a lot on my own, building in the background that I have and stuff like that. But so many things that I have learned to do in my diorama building and things like that have come from other people online. And it feels really good to be able to try to help promote other folks that, number one, I can just look at their stuff and get inspiration. But try to give that back. Try to help them grow and try to get more folks to see the stuff that they do because it's very, very impressive. So please get that stuff to me. Try to do it, please, before Wednesday. Okay. I really appreciate it. Hey, here is Atlas Spade. Hello, Atlas Spade. Hi, just want to thank you again for inspiring me and helping me to get better and set design and model making. That's really, really wonderful. Thank you so much. it it's one of those things where I'm just so excited to do it. And I found, this way of integrating the things that I get from, movies and special features, specifically Star Wars, like some old Disney movies like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, my favorite old timey 1956 movie. From Lord of the Rings, the special editions, from The Hobbit, the special editions, the box sets, they have like 4 and 5 hours of additional material per movie. Pardon me. I think that by looking at those things and watching them, because I watch them over and over and over and over again, because I find them fascinating. And sometimes they're just in the background while I'm building. As a matter of fact, most times they're in the background while they're building. But because I've watched them so many times, it's hitting. I just talk weird when I'm online. It's hitting these little mental cues, so I can really kind of build this picture in my mind. So I'm really watching the movie through my mind's eye as I'm building and listening to it. And I think I find it very stimulating, because there will be times in the narrative where they're talking about set design, or how we lit this scene, or and this is something I'm trying to get a little bit more into now, is the reasons why they made different changes to different characters' roles, and some of the speak and lines and writing that Tolkien made, that the team, Peter Jackson's team, the three primary writers, went in and made changes and gave lines from here to there. And I think that's a very important thing to learn. Certainly if you want to tell stories, but in diorama building, just like Atlas Spade is saying, when you're trying to do something visually and not have the words and not have a big placard that says, this about the diorama or whatever, I think that you have to kind of overemphasize some things. You have to make it very conspicuous. You really want to show that this is happening, but not to a point where it overtakes the rest of the diorama. So there's this balancing act, and they talk about that. You do it through lighting, you do it through position, composition, all of these things. And when they're talking about building a scene and then putting actors through it, I'm interpreting building a diorama and putting figures through it with the same kind of thought, the same kind of idea that I want to get an idea across to the viewer, and it just has to be done visually. So details are something that helps that out. When you've got your set, you've got your terrain, you've added a place in your diorama for the people to be in, and then you put in the characters, and each of those characters, those figures, I call them characters, like in a movie or a scene or a play or a stage play or whatever. But when you put them in the scene, they're there, but just like if they're walking through a trench, they're just there momentarily. You're not really telling the story yet. You've only got these people passing through this scene, and then the scene is there. It's the details that tie them to the scene. So the mud that's in the trench, if it's on their clothes, that ties them to the scene. It's not just these figures moving through anymore. They're now experiencing what the scene has, which is the mud, which is the wetness, the atmosphere, if you will. If they're going downstairs and they're tripping and they have to like put their hand up on a wall to steady themselves, that's another way to integrate your figure so that it's part of the terrain. There's this idea that giving your model, if you're just doing a base, giving it a place is enough. And maybe it is. It sets the setting, it sets the year, possibly the time of day, night or day, whatever. But when you focus on telling a story through your diorama, just giving it the terrain is not enough. You have to tie the model to it. Figures do it, interacting with the terrain by having dents and mud and grass and the trail. I'm thinking of a tank, of course, or a truck or whatever. That kind of interaction keeps it from looking like I bought this base, I put some grass down on it and some rubble, and then I set my tank down, and then I'm positioning these figures so you can see how well they're painted. Have we ever seen that at a model show? I think you have, you know, and it's not bad because it does focus all your attention on the model. But once you've looked at the model, what's left? Right? I've seen some very, very beautiful models with a figure and the vehicle there, and it's on a very nice, distinguished terrain. And that's it. There's nothing else there. Once you look at the model, you're like, wow, that is neat. And they did a really nice job building it. Spectacular job building it. And then you just move on. I'm trying to capture you. I am trying to capture you with a story. I want you to linger. I want you to ask questions and then visually be able to answer those questions through the diorama that I'm building, right? I've got this idea that I want to get across. I draw you in with, well, there's a lot of ways to draw someone to your diorama in a model show, but the point is you do those things, right? So I've got you there. Or maybe they're just doing the rounds, you know, they're just going through there. But what I really want is I want them to linger. I put so much time in my models. You've put so much time in your models. You have thought about paint, you've thought about the year, you've thought about the livery, you've thought about the time of day, you've thought about all these things, and you've read about it and you've researched it and you've got the right paint, and you've done all these things for months, possibly, if you're going to a show, quite possibly months, maybe weeks, but most likely months, right? And then somebody goes, wow, nice job. They're gone. You know, I mean, so by giving them a story to say, hey, that's really well done. But look, he's leaning on a cane. And then you look down at the cane, and then the person's got a bandage on the foot. And then you look in the back of the diorama, and there's maybe a scene that's been built up or something like that to, you know, to like force perspective to show in the distance a plane crash, to show that in the past, and maybe it's in black and white. And I'm stealing from a really great model builder, Barbarossa Models. And Barbarossa has this one diorama that shows like black and white on part of it and color on the other side. And it's one of the German, it's like the bunker, or it's like a gun emplacement in, you know, the Europa line, all that kind of stuff that they had, the steel wall. I'm sorry, the concrete wall, the bunkers that they had on the beaches. And so in black and white, it's the German soldiers on one side. And then the other side, it's like a lady in modern times in color. So it's showing ghosts of the past in this diorama. It's a brilliant diorama. You have to look up Barbarossa Models. He's just wonderful. But taking on that idea, so you could have that guy standing next to the plane. In the background, you could have, like, in black and white, a crash, and it's also in forced perspective, so it's smaller, whatever. So it's in his distance, it's in his background, and then he's got this, so it's showing you the thing, but he recovered and he's there standing by his plane. You know, so I'm just saying there's a story there, is what I'm trying to get to. There's more to it. And it's going to keep them looking at your model, and they're going to come away from that exposition, display, show, whatever, with that in mind. It's the things that are gonna you're gonna want to keep a hold of, those memories that they're gonna want to look back on. You know, when they recollect what they did, when they tell somebody about this really neat show. Is it gonna be the 15 tigers in a row? Or is it going to be that one beautiful thing where they showed this, this guy with a cane next to us? You know what I'm saying? I think that can make an impression and an engagement and make people remember what you did. And I'm not trying to justify the time, because the time that you spend on a model hopefully is a joyful time for you. That's why I do it. I absolutely love building dioramas. But it is nice when people are so interested in it that they do want to spend part of their day. We don't have all that time around, and they're spending that time on your model. That's a very special thing. So, trying to increase those chances by giving people something to look at, giving some people more to look at. And yeah, thanks very much. I don't know why I had to go off on that jag. I just, I'm that way, I suppose. I'll start posting, maybe make a new channel. Well, that's wonderful, Atlas Spade. I have really gotten into this posting thing, as you can tell. Just a moment. Yeah, I watch stuff like that too. That stuff, and I think it's the reason I won state. See, there you won state with your stuff, and I think you should be posting. The reasons I think you should be posting are more for when you're not able to post anymore. It's just one of those things. As soon as I joined a club, I became familiar with this term, did the math. And they look at their model stash and they say, well, I've only got the ability to do a quarter of that stash. I got to start selling off my stash. That was a term that I had never heard of or thunk of or considered before going to an IPMS club meeting, because it's a lot of people that do that. And then, it's great because it takes on a mind of its own. Once you get into the club atmosphere, there's a lot of things about the industry, the hobby, the mechanics of building, the managing, a big collection of models, helping other people. There's just so much into it. Just like when you get into anything, there's just so much depth there that from the onset, there was maybe no idea that these things were there. Well, it helped me discover more about why I was building, what excited me about building, and the fact that I didn't want to build a model, which I had done for years. There's models just laying around that I've built since, I was a little kid, but it wasn't a primary function for me. It wasn't the primary thing I'm doing. But nowadays I'm getting a little older, a little bit hard to move around and do wacky stuff like I used to. And now I'm really thoroughly enjoying the amount of detail and the amount of engagement that I can have with building to keep this thing occupied. It's a wonderful thing. Model building is just wonderful. And that I didn't think of all that stuff. I didn't even consider that until joining a club. So that's just another thing. If there is a local club near you, check it out. You may like it. I don't go very much anymore just because I'm so busy, and it's on days where I'm like, man, but it's a great community, and I think it's one of the things that helped me become a better modeler. And it's not because of competition, because I'm not a competition person, though I've been to competitions. It's not about one-upmanship. It's about seeing what's possible. And hopefully, I'm also able to communicate some of that to you. Man, I'm just going on and talking for like way too long before I need to show you some stuff. But I just want to get this part said. The ability to see what's possible sometimes is all you need to get past a point of stagnation or a point of I can't feel motivated or I don't know what to do. It's because maybe you haven't seen something that you're interested in that is beyond what you thought was possible, or you never even thought of that. I get that. Every, I was going to say every day, and it almost is every day. I'm just not online every day, and I don't, but anytime I look, I see what's possible. And that immediately breaks down any kind of barrier. I heard this quote, it was, I don't know, in the zeitgeist here in the last few weeks, that, before the 3-minute mile or the 1-minute mile, I don't even know, Chariots of Fire, before they broke that unseen time for the mile, nobody could do it. It was thought to be undoable. After it happened, within months, multiple people had matched and beaten that barrier that had held, so far as we know, throughout history, recorded history at least. So, hopefully I can give you some things, sometimes images, sometimes hopefully words too. That's why I so yammer. But hopefully something that's going to get you beyond that point of, I don't know, or it's never been done, I don't want to try, or just finding something that you never thought you could do with what you're trying to do. So, I am the only set designer in my school. Shake my head. No worries, Atlas. There's plenty of stuff that you can do in sets. I had so my best friend and I have been best friends since 5th grade. Okay, Tom, my best friend. In junior high, we thought we would get away and meet girls, so we took drama. We both really actually did good in it, and had a fun time. And I just remember in we had to make a little stage play. He and I getting a bunch of cardboard, and we did a modern Cinderella, and the Trans Am, a Trans Am. So I did a cardboard Trans Am cutout. This was back in the late 70s. I was 78, 79, something like that. So that was fun. So set design, I have a little bit of experience, but it was never like I was never in drama past that, but it was really fun. Okay, so what are we doing? I'm going to go over here, and we got that, but I'm going to go beyond that, and I'm going to talk about this. So my diorama coaching, I'm sorry. Before we do that, we're going to talk about Hand of Godzilla. I'm sorry I didn't talk about this earlier. Have not done anything with Hand of Godzilla, but Hand of Godzilla is ready, rocking, and willing to go anytime I get back to it. Hand of Godzilla is just on the bench. It's right over there behind me, or in front of me now, behind you as your point of view. And I just haven't done it. And the reason is I've been working so much on the coaching. And please understand, the coaching is really important. I'm able to do that and create funds. It's an income source, and so I've been concentrating on that. Now, I think the really good news for hopefully everybody is I have been able to put out more videos, consistent videos, long form videos every Saturday now, going on 3 months, which is for me pretty darn good. Previously, I was a little bit more sporadic, every once in a while I do 3 and bang, it's just off the thing again. But this has helped me be very much more consistent. I'm building videos that are much more on the technical side of building the diorama. So if you have an idea that you want to express, please go look at those videos. The member area allows you to see them as soon as I post them. There's 3 in line right now, ready to, they're scheduled, every Saturday here going forward. So I've got a 3-week backlog or pipeline, I guess. So that's really nice. But that's what I've been doing primarily. Now, the fun thing is I've got great projects. I've got a fun project, and one of them is this. It's the Rock Cut Road project. So this is Rock Cut Road. I worked on this with Bob Harris. Bob was on earlier. I hope he's still on. And what I do during the classes is classically I would do something like this. I want to show you a demonstration of a technique that I know or a method that sometimes it's an experiment of solving a problem that you have with your diorama. So during the class, I will build something and then I film it and then I make a video of it. And then the following week, hopefully, because these videos take a long time to produce sometimes, then we review that video and then do it. And then we kind of set up, okay, so what's the next thing? So that's the method. And this is one of the ones that we've actually used. And I'm going to do more with it later. Well, in this instance, we did a little bit different. In this instance, I wanted to talk about how the different elements that we're doing in this diorama, how they should be placed in the diorama, number one, or a good way to place them in the diorama. And the reference picture was this cut. And I didn't see a better way of demonstrating how to carve it and how, show it in the diorama, but then just building it. And so what I did is I built this one instead of just a demonstration model. I actually built a diorama. So at the end of it, Bob said, man, I got to have it. So, we worked out a deal, which was wonderful. And I appreciate that, Bob. And then I had this big problem. I had to ship this thing. I have shipped many things. I used to do that, in the pro job many, many, many years ago. So I know how to ship something, but hadn't done anything in a long time, and I'd never shipped a diorama of this ilk. And so this is really important. We figured out, number one, you see that on the corner there of that of the base there, it's a cherry base, custom made cherry base. Well, I did that, and here's a different angle. You can see there's a lip or a space, a notch in between the diorama and the cherry base. Now, that has 2 purposes. The first purpose is Bob wanted to get a piece of acrylic or glass, whatever, a cover over this and slide it down over. So it's going to accommodate that. So as you look at the picture here, you can see it's that same distance all the way around. It's an 1/8 inch. And so it goes all the way around the diorama. The second thing it worked great for is I was able to put a box. Basically, I took a box, I broke it down, I cut the individual pieces, the sizes that I would need to build basically a clear slip cover over it, be it glass or acrylic or whatever you're going to use. And I was able to slide that in there just like a case. Now, the difference here being this has no, I'm sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong thing here. This has no thing on it. There's no vehicle, there's no figures, and the small plants that are here, they've been cemented in very nicely. There's even a little Gila monster in there, and he's in there very nicely. So I didn't have to worry about anything really, snapping off or coming loose and flying around there. If I did have a vehicle on this thing, I would absolutely remove it before shipping. Just even if it's in there and it's mounted pretty good, like it's glued or something like that. I've heard of things because of the shaking and the rattling and the shipping and stuff, that stuff can, the parts where they've been glued together can come off. So you get it off and there's your chassis and then there's the frame, it's so, yeah, I would definitely keep that in mind before shipping, and then separate them, ship it separately. You can, pack that, and then, keep nothing on the diorama. So that's what I did. And I still, put it on there. And then of course I put on some real nice, packing material around the base that it's upside down now. So I've just got the base, slathered with foam and packing material. Then I bubble wrapped that, plastic wrapped it, and then off it went. Now this went from Washington State all the way down to Texas. And so that's a pretty good distance. And I went USPS. This is what I was worried about. The tops of these getting munched, these rocks. And of course, these little guys here, the plants that's just getting flattened. So shipped it USPS. I was pretty happy with this. I did do a fair amount of scouting around. I hadn't shipped anything in a long time. Certainly, since before COVID. And if you haven't shipped, check it out. It's changed. Something of this size 5-6 years ago, I would probably have paid $30 to $40 to ship. It was $100 to ship this thing. Look if you're not sure. I think that a lot of people now are doing shipping, and that did not include the packing. I still had to get packing and all that bubble wrap you saw. I had to buy. I don't have that kind of stuff, so I had to buy all that stuff. It was a pretty penny to ship this thing. So just consider that. But, you taking that into consideration, is it going to make it? Is it just not going to make it? Well, thankfully it did. So, I bought this on the way to the post office, so I didn't get a chance to take a picture of it. But here it is at Bob's. Thank you so much, Bob, for these pictures. It looks really great. I think it came in, fine, and I was really worried about that. I put a little note in there and a couple of stickers and some stuff for Bob. Here's a little extra I threw in there for Bob, but there is our package. Looks good. The other thing is that little slip cover, cardboard slip cover that I made for that. Bob can now use that and take it to someone and say, hey, here's a general, I wouldn't go directly off of it, but here's a general size I'm looking for, and you can shop that around. And then when you get to specifics, take your measurements right off the diorama. But you can figure out what's going to cost to go ahead and get somebody to make that either out of glass or plexi. But yeah, either would work now. Has to be 1/8 inch. 1/8 inch. That slot won't fit anything else. Well, thinner, but you don't want that. So that was in there, the box, and then yeah, everything came out fine. This is really important. I need to know that number one, I'm packing these things well enough to make that shipment. So it's really great to get this feedback, from Bob. I really appreciate that. And here's the other thing. So this is one of the things I put this and this in there because during our coaching sessions, these were training aids that I made for our coaching sessions. And I think as Bob said yesterday after we talked, after stuff was there, he did make mention that it really helped to be able to see it. To be able to see it not photographically, see the scale of it. He's got other pictures. I'm not going to put him in now because I think I'm going to have Bob as part of our other folks thing. Though I'm going to work with Bob some more, certainly. But I just want to present these in the right light, to show you because Bob is coming along great. But what I want to say is, having this there and the video and the other examples that, I created during our training course and stuff like that, you can physically touch it, see it. I really think it makes a big difference. So, as I create these ability to people to sign up for these courses and just having time with me to work with me on stuff, I need to modify it and I need to update it. So I think this is definitely going to be one of the things that we can do. It's not necessary, you know, if I'm working with somebody overseas, maybe it's too expensive to ship, but you know, it's a learning experience for me as well as for Bob, because I'm learning how to better get that information out and hopefully match the expectation, you know, that somebody has when they sign up for something with me. So thanks, Bob. I really, really appreciate it. Not only for shipping, but for transporting in general. 100% correct. When I have gone to shows and taking my models there, you know, you hear the horror stories of the finger, you know, because little kids, man, they're just fascinated with it. You can't blame them, and you can't even blame the parents, because yes, some parents, I've seen this, just stand back and just watch, which is a little frustrating. But most parents are just not aware because the kids are so quick and they're bingity bangity boing, and they're, you know, and they just look at that. So the finger is what you fear, or the grab. But in my personal experience, most of the damage to anything that I've ever taken to a show has been in transportation. The vast majority of it is in transportation. When I'm building, I was going to grab a model, but they're all up there. When I'm building a model, I'm not thinking about transportation. You know, and after the first time, yeah, sure, you do. But I mean, when I built these, and I built a lot of this stuff before I ever went to a show, and I just didn't consider that. I'm like, I'm putting the glue on there so it's not seen, and it's, you know, but it's glued. And now I'm like, man, I gob it on a little bit here and there to be able to get, you know, I'll even put supportive styrene in there sometimes if I think, you know, that's not going to hold up very well. Because that's the other thing. And this is a really, really good point, Alice Spade. So thanks very much for bringing it up. Just through the point of building, I've damaged stuff. I like to build a vehicle or whatever, some focal point for my diorama first. I typically do that. I'll get it to a certain stage and then I'll stop working on it. That becomes the focal point. It's the anchor of the diorama. I can reference everything from that. It's got the proper size. It's got the dimensions. Its space in the diorama is defined. And then I can work on everything else. Well, in some of these dioramas, I'm working for months. And so in the space of that time working around that piece, I've damaged them. I knock it with my, that's my biggest thing. I'll reach for something and knock something over with the back of my hand, the back of my arm. Constantly happens. So you're like this on the bench sometimes. But this is a very good point. You want to try to keep your models in a state of how they're going to be traded in the long run. Okay, yeah, hopefully it's going to be static, but moved around. Think about that. And also think about, like the picture I showed earlier. I'm looking at it. Maybe I can go back to that picture. But I've got Godzilla over here and right here. Everything is set up there in the trays, in the bin below it, the boxes. It's all organized. Nothing's going to get hurt. Nothing's going to get damaged. Even inside there is where I'm keeping the little components that I have built so far. They've only gotten to that, you know, that point of primer and stuff like that. But I'm trying to keep, you know, close attention to keeping these things from being damaged, because, you know, I've done year-long projects. There's one right behind me, the D&D diorama. It was 12 full months. It's for a year. And trying to keep that organized, trying to keep it from getting damaged as you're moving around the shop. In a year, a lot goes on in a model shop. In a year, a lot goes on in your model room or the kitchen table or wherever you model, right? And so think about that a little bit earlier on. I think that's a really key part to it. So great comments and suggestions, folks. Bob says, Please take a course. The option of receiving the finished product is unbelievably wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate that, Bob, and I got to make that a part of the course, you know. So and what I mean by making it a part of the course is typically I've said, sorry, I didn't mean to cut. I meant to bring this down. Typically I've said, you know, look, I don't sell my dioramas, and that's for the dioramas that I build that I'm building for myself because I really get invested in what I build. I'm telling you, I don't know if you're like that or not. You know, the shop is the shop because I'm building things I want in the shop. There's the answer. So those I don't want to sell. But now that I'm doing this course, this coaching courses and stuff like that, and working and mentoring and coaching with people about it, these are specific to those conversations, the reference pictures, the ideas that are from both of us. So there's this weird, well, now wait a minute, if I'm doing, I have a price to build somebody a diorama. I have it. I know what it is. And it's something I calculate from what they want in it, you know, what kind of finishes, how much detail, am I doing a model or not? If it's just a base, I have that price. And that price is vastly different than the courses that I sell where I'm demonstrating and we're working together online and going over techniques and perfecting techniques and even experimenting with different techniques in diorama and model building. So there's a vast difference there. So you know, at the end of it, you know, how do I work that into it? If I build you a diorama in the course of the course, yeah, that's something that I'm working on, and I'm trying to figure out. But I think that's a natural thing. But what I'm not trying, I'm trying to sell the knowledge. I'm trying to help people to fish. I don't want to give people fish, and I don't want to get biblical, but I really honestly want to pass on the knowledge. I don't This is a money making enterprise, my channel and all that kind of stuff. This is my job now. This is what I do. I am 100%, I guess, a professional diorama builder. And so that's what I do. But there is a vast amount of knowledge that I have gained, not just with that I really want to get across to people and try to get that stuff disseminated. So that's the purpose of those courses. So anyway, I don't want to go too on and on and on and on, but I really appreciate that. What's it? The financial situation is worth everything you received. Knowledge is worth twice the amount. Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate it. Bob's my student. We worked on those together, and it was a lot of fun. How much is it? Thanks very much. Will contact me and we'll talk about it. There's different ways we do it, and it's based on what you're trying to do. And Bob says cheap. Well, thanks, Bob, and I appreciate that because I do want it to be affordable. I don't want to, devalue myself or my knowledge or anything that I'm trying to pass along. But at the same time, I understand, where we're at economically right now, and so I do try to make it super affordable so that you can work with me. And that's what we do. We are online together and we're talking and we're working back and forth, and I'm showing you something. I bring the cameras down and we do it, and then you do it, and then I say, hey, yeah, I'll go a little bit here and that's brilliant or whatever. So it's a really fun interactive process, and I really enjoy it. And Daniel says, when I build something really nice, I tend to want to give it away. If I keep it around, I become inoculated to it, and putting a price on it feels weird. Very, very true. And that's the thing. When you're doing this kind of work, and this is a cautionary tale if you're thinking about getting into dioramas as a business, because a lot of people are looking for some kind of a business these days, and I certainly was. And that's why I decided I didn't want to build them, because the kind of dioramas that I want to build take a long, long time. And I can't produce them quite fast enough to make a living out of it. That's why the courses help, right? The courses allow me to make a recurring, source of income that helps to pay for the training, the material, the whole thing. Then if I can sell stuff on the side, then there you go. That's a bonus. But I don't think that you can build them fast enough. Certainly a person of one can't build them fast enough and then charge the amount of work that goes into it. When Bob and I are on a call, a typical call is an hour. A typical call is 2 hours. It's charged an hour, but it's typically 2 hours, that we're on. And then there's additional calls and stuff like that, so you do that kind of stuff. But that, anyway, I don't want, again, I haven't figured out how to market this yet. I haven't figured out how to make my things not sound like a commercial, because I'm not trying to do that. But I also certainly want to get the message out there so that other people that are interested can, work with me, because I want to work with them. The fun part about it is I think I'm making, and I talked to Bob about this yesterday, I think I'm making better videos. He's not so sure. He says he likes my videos, and I really appreciate that. But I really want to try to make videos that once they're released to the general public, we're done with them. That's basically what happens is we work on them together in that release process, where it's like 3 to 4 weeks before general public sees the video. In that amount of time, we're working back and forth. We're watching those videos multiple times. We're talking about points in the videos. We're disseminating information specific to a point. We're changing the direction. That's the other thing that's really fun. We'll go down a point and Bob says, look, I'd really like to learn about this. But I actually, and that's last week, but this week I got this great idea. And we're able to go into it. Now, this is something that's very specific to this kind of a course. It's very fluid. And as long as it doesn't, go from spacemen to underwater, and you don't want underwater spacemen, from week to week, then it's a pretty easy way to shift course and then start teaching on this technique and stuff like that. I do think that having a goal in mind instead of I'd like to learn this or I'd like to learn that, having a goal in mind is nice, because and by goal, a scene in your mind that you want to recreate, or something that you want to conceptualize with me, and then we build that thing together. The reason I think that's important is, just like this last diorama I did, Rock Cut Road, we had built enough components and talked enough technique at that point that Bob was very competent to go back. And by the way, Bob's a very good model builder. He's not a beginner. So consider that. Bob is a very competent model builder. It's just the diorama stuff, hadn't really delved into. So that's what I'm helping with. But he's also done dioramas that are very nice. But it's just a different level, okay? So as we're doing that, and Bob says, I need to kind of look at this. When we started our second step of our program, where we had only done components previously, it became apparent that how it's mounted, that technique, that component that we built together, which was the L-shaped wall, and then the wood and all that kind of stuff, how that goes into a diorama is sometimes just as important as how well you build that component. That's why it evolved into building a whole diorama, because I'm not only teaching you how to build a component and the technology, or the technique for doing certain techniques, the process, I should say. I'm not teaching that just. I'm also talking about our storytelling. I'm also talking about the need and the whys and the wherefores of having this element in there. How to build up from the ground to have layers of effects to show the kind of scenery you want. When you look at those little pictures that we showed earlier of the bushes and the shrubbery and stuff like that, there's a lot of different stuff there, sure. But how do you produce it? How do you put it together? How do you install it? All of that kind of stuff really matters in, remember, set design that Atlas Spade was talking about earlier? It really matters in that regard as well. Not just how do I paint rock, what do I put in front of the rock to make it look like it's part of the scene, like it's part of this whole imaginary scenery that I'm trying to create. How do we integrate those? How do we do that? Well, that's why, we went to that point. And I think that's important. If you don't go in with just how to use it from raw material, learning that technique, which is where we stopped before, and then how to implement it in your vision to make it a complete something, then it's almost half or even, a quarter of the process, because all that rest of process really makes a difference in how your final diorama is presented, you know. It's almost like buying the old, like the little Weeblos, not Weeblos, the Weebles. Weebles wobble, they don't fall down. You buy that little farm kit, and so you set it up, and it's great, and you can set it up anywhere. You can set it on the carpet, you can set it up outdoors, you can set it up anywhere, and it is what it is. But it is what it is, but it doesn't match and be part of something. These are just parts you're putting on something. So without integrating that into the base, into the diorama, into the scenery, into the entire contiguous whatever you're building, it can look out of place at that point. So that's a big part of what we go through. And then Bob says, I'm sorry, here we go. The knowledge is school. It would be great if the high school had an art class for you, but I am at 70. Plus, knowledge is worth the expense. You won't ever remember how much it costs, but you will never forget. Hey, thanks, Bob. That's really nice, and I really appreciate that. But and again, it's fun for me too, because I get to work with someone and have different ideas coming into my head about where to go next. That was that thing about shifting gears and going in a different direction, and building something that we really hadn't thought of, but because of everything that we built before, wow, this is going to be perfect. So we just go into that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Okay, we've been doing a lot of me talking, and I really want to show this video. So we're going to show you the video, and I hope this comes out properly. So what I got to do is over here, I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to make it full screen, and we are going to watch this video, and I'm going to talk to you as we're going through it in the video, but then I'll pause it and I'll explain some of the things that we're talking about as things were built. Okay, so we are looking at wings and things. I had a lot of requests, really, really nice folks. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm over the mic. Had a lot of really nice folks request to see, some of the things up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take little, I guess, sections like I did with everything else, and I'll look at it, and then I'm going to show you some really nice pictures I took of them, because in an earlier attempt at filming this, I had taken down this right here. This model of Da Vinci's, it's a battle scythe. I took that down, and I'll show that a little bit later on. But it took me like a half an hour to clean them up, because they just looked like there was just so much dust on them and things like that. So rather than bring all these down, I at one point took some really nice pictures of things. And I want to show you those pictures. And they'll be much better pictures than I'm able to, capture like this. So anyway, I am going to show just kind of a general look at the shop, and then I'm going to bring in these really nice pictures that I did. So the first thing is like over here. So I've got a wing over there on the back wall over the model bench. Now this wing is supposed to be a jetpack, kind of like Flash Gordon-y kind of jetpack. And it works, everything's worked, but I haven't finished it yet. And it's been sitting there for about a year. I don't know if I have any additional pictures of this guy. It's like I don't know what age you would call it, because he's got like a big jet engine underneath him, and it's like a chariot. Never really finished it, but he's got a dragon on it. It's like a sky chariot, almost like Flash Gordon or something like that. I don't know. And then I've got this, And I've got some really nice pictures of this, so I'm really excited. As this goes around, the gear engages all of those pegs and makes a shaft turn so the wings flap up and down. Trying to get these gears to work took a little bit, but it's a really simple gearing and all that kind of stuff, the mechanical device. But it was a lot of fun. The wood is sapele and maple. And of course, this is upside down. Then we'll look over here, and I've got these wings. I've got the original. This was part of a machine that made it flap up and down. Sorry, I gotta zoom back out. So it made it flap up and down. And so I've got some original build pictures of that, and we'll show those. So this is my old shop in our first house, and it's just half the garage. Great memories of this old shop. No heat, no cooling, no nada, but it was great to build in. Now this frame has a friction clutch that really works. That's a slip clutch in there. It's made out of Purple Heart. This is all scrap wood that I got. And these lead shot filled weights, one is a counterbalance for the wing itself, the other one is the drive. And this thing actually did, flap up and down on its own. You crank it up and you let it go, and it would flap probably 3 to 4 times. And that wing is 5 feet long. So it's a big old wing. Da Vinci Ornithopter, and I'm not 100% sure what kind of pictures I have of this one. I know I've got some good, nice new ones. I don't know if I have any build pictures. I wasn't filming things back then. I would take just shots here and there, but I do want to show you whatever I have. So those are coming. So these were really fun. Again, this thing has about a 6.5-foot wingspan, so it's huge. And you can see how pretty the wood looks when it's all clean and waxed properly and stuff like that. All the turnings I did on my own, and it was just a really fun technical build. Lots and lots of different technical challenges through it that I really, really enjoyed. The wings actually do flap in the middle. They're broken. You see, it's a 2-part thing based directly on Da Vinci's his design. Though I did add a tail. That's my own addition. Da Vinci didn't have a tail in his. Back there, I don't think I have any other. That was just one that I built. It started with Da Vinci's drawings. We'll go in here real quick. And inside the office, this is the very first wing that I ever built. And it's something that I just found fascinating, in trying to make the wing work. So you can hold on to the handle back there at the back, and because of all the levers and stuff like that, when this closes, then these guys retract and they're all connected. Well, and I did that design over and over and over again. Here is one of Da Vinci's direct kind of designs I just built directly. These were a lot of fun because they're just directly from his design. I didn't do any modification at all. Just kind of showing this stuff so that I can cut to pictures of it, I guess. This is a taube, an Utrecht taube. So yeah, I love just flight, the thought of flight, the earliest parts of flight and things like that. The slow-mo was really fun. I loved building this. I just thought it would be a fun project. And it took a lot to get that to drop at a proper rate, because that is a heavy piece of steel. And this trigger that's coming up This took a while. It's my own design, but it works. Yeah, this thing is pretty fun. I really liked building it. The wood is, I can't remember, it might be bloodwood on the bed, but the rest of it is walnut. Some really nice dark walnut. I don't smoke cigars anymore, so it hasn't been off the
Very
shelf in
well
years.
here. I also really like scratch building.
This was a fantastic project. This is the biggest single thing I think I've built, and it's Otto Lilienthal's glider. And sadly, he passed away in the late 1800s. But his book that he wrote, the Wright brothers read, and that went into the Wright Flyer. The more of the statistics they gathered because they did the first scientific study of flight by studying birds. It's not to scale. It's all built just looking at pictures, and then I figure out what I'm going to build. So, not from plans or anything. The sewing was pretty fun. Trying to figure that out. Didn't know what I was going to do, but they came out. My mom taught both my brother and I how to sew, basics, survival skills basically. But yeah, pretty basic stuff. Came out good.
These aren't from kits. They're not from anything but finding pictures in books. Sometimes you find diagrams like blueprints and stuff like that. But even at that, I wouldn't go from the blueprint because the scale that I wanted. So I just would build by eye.
This is a Blériot pedal plane that I started many years. It was maybe one of the first projects we built in our current house. And didn't ever finish it. It's hanging from the ceiling now, as you see. But it had potential. There's that Anzani engine is all wood.
And I enjoy that. It's a much more organic way of building that I think is really, really enjoyable. So that's the kind of building I do is it's all organic. Here in this corner, some early mechanical whatever the hex.
This was the bow of a Viking ship that I was trying to copy the pattern from one side to the next, and so I built this. It's pretty funky, but it got me into building mechanical stuff like this. When I first built this many years ago, before the wood kind of got brittle, it actually, with the hand crank, it ran. That wood chain worked perfectly. But as the years went on, the wood becomes very brittle. So now I wouldn't just crank the handle, but I do something here in a second where I advance it and show you how it actually worked at the beginning. And it was that natural flapping action of the wing that I was trying to simulate.
This is another Da Vinci thing. This is his scythe. It's Da Vinci's battle scythe. If he had a shop, well, this is a scaled down version that he could just, grab this and pull it and see how well it works. And it does work. I don't want to do it now, but this drives this upper deal, and as these extend out, you end up with this really brutal machine that in wartime could just, as the picture shows, just mow people down. So yeah, some of these classic drawings are a little bit rough, but I think they demonstrate a mind that can conceive this stuff. I think that's the thing about Da Vinci that really impresses me. As I look at things that I've built and stuff, there's a lineage. There's something that led me to that point. Very rarely, I think, am I personally building or designing or drawing or whatever that's purely new. And I know that Da Vinci, with his wing stuff, he studied bird wings and stuff like that, but what what was in his head that allowed him to conceive of this kind of a thing? I think certainly there were mills and stuff, but to extrapolate this kind of a weapon out of a water mill or a grain millery, something like that, because that was common in his day, obviously. But gee, Christmas! So it's that kind of thing I think is really impressive about Da Vinci. He conceptualized things that people up into that day hadn't kind of put together. Uh, and I think that, like for me, many years later, 550 years later, I'm building things, but I've got that basis for, ideas, basically, the concepts, the all the basic stuff has already been figured out. I'm just a craftsperson building something that somebody has already designed 500 years ago. Anyway, I think that's neat.
Fascinated with catapults. I haven't built enough yet, but this was one of the earlier ones I did out of oak. This is supposed to be a lift on a dock in Tycho Brahe's time. It's based on a drawing from Tycho Brahe. This is something I made for Mrs. Modelcraft. This is called Peekaboo. And then these are just more kind of this was an invite for my nephew years ago.
So there you go. So those are the things in the shop. I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, if there's anything that you saw that you wanted to see a little bit more of, just say so. And I'll be happy to maybe make a special video for it. But I'll certainly talk about it in a short. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see ya. Okay.
Whoop, had to just stop that thing. So there you go. That was a lot of fun for me to put together, and I've already gotten a bunch of comments on it. So thank you, everybody, and thanks for being so nice about this. Building some of these things for so many years, and then having the opportunity to show them off is one of the things we talked about really at the beginning of this, an hour and 20 minutes ago, and that is getting back in there and showing your stuff to folks. Being able to get this stuff out there, this is a record that's going to stick around for an awfully long time. And being able to show something that you built, that you're passionate about, show it to your family later on, that's pretty special. I have talked about this before. My father, my grandfather, to be able to see something in an intimate setting where they may be talking about it or something like that would be pretty amazing. And you have the opportunity to do that for your family and for generations, down the line. So it's not hard. A lot of folks have that ability. and more than just maybe even satisfying your need to get some of this stuff out, maybe think of it in terms of it's a gift. You know, you're given something that somebody like me, you know, would just love to see today of my, you know, my grandmother, my grandfather, my great great grandmother or grandfather. You know, sometimes we can have their relics. I have this book nook over here. It's actually a china cabinet that my great great great, I think just two greats, grandfather built during the Depression. So yeah, stuff like, or it's just my great grandfather. I don't know, but I have pictures and I have the article. But hear him talk about it, the tools he used, have these conversations with yourself with the camera, and give somebody a gift is kind of what I'm saying. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for coming in. I hope it was interesting. I enjoyed it. And if you have comments, if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in there. I do review them. And if you would like to, this is a reminder, if you would like to be on the show where I show your website, if I show your channel, if I show some of your stuff, write me a little glip. I'll put it in here. We'll read it. I'll create a little profile for you, and we'll promote that stuff. I'm looking to do it next week. I've got a bunch of data already, so but I'd love to add to that. So please get me things by Wednesday if you'd like to be included. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I am going to be building. I just with Mr. Tamiya passing this last week, I got me a great little Tamiya kit that I've been wanting to work on. I'm not doing a flash build. It's not a group build. It's not nothing. It's just me. I felt like breaking some plastic. I haven't done anything like this for a while. And so I'm going to do that this weekend. And I got to do a lot of yard work. We got a family function coming up the weekend after this. And so I am going to be doing lots and lots and lots of yard work. So this will be my cool down after yard work all weekend. Thank you so much, everybody. I so appreciate you coming in. Thanks a lot, Daniel. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bill. You're creating quite a legacy. Well, thanks very much. And that's the point. I would love for you to be able to create a legacy too, you know, for your folks, for your family, for the people that you know you may not be around for to say things to. You can do it now. You absolutely can. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Friday, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see ya. Bye-bye.